Welcome to Cycling Central. Today we'll be bleeding the Giant Conduct hydraulic braking system. It's a bit of a strange one. I'm not a particular fan, but it saved Giant a lot of money, so I can see why they've done it. It's a bit of a pain to do, but if you've got the right tools for the job and you know what to do, it's not too bad. The manuals online aren't the best, so I thought I'd just do a quick video to show you how. So I've actually already done it, so I'll be just walking you through how to do it and just describing the things that I run into. If you like unboxings and tutorials, then subscribe to the channel, and if you found this video useful, then please hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. First things first, you need to take your front and rear wheel out, and you want to put a bleed block in. If you don't have a bleed block, which is one of these thick yellow blocks that you can secure at the back. This one's not, because it didn't fit, because it's not a Shimano one. They actually use Tektro brakes on the rear here if you're interested. It's a Tektro one, which again are a bit rubbish, especially in comparison to the Shimano ones, but they do the job for the price. So this one's secured, as you can see, with the bolt to make sure it's not going anywhere. If you don't have these, just use a wedge of paper, something that won't compress when the pistons squeeze onto it. So after you've done that and you've taken the two wheels out, front and rear, and put the bleed blocks in, that's very important. You need to have something there, because if you squeeze the levers without anything there, you're going to have some problems with the pistons popping out. So talking of pistons popping out, if you have been using your brakes like this guy has, and your brake pads now look like this, it's focus, with no actual brake pad left, just the block, which is a bit unfortunate, then your pistons will actually pop out. And what I mean by that is your piston should be all the way back in, nice and flush, so that you can fit this whole brake block in. So as you can see here, the pistons are all the way back in, nicely recessed back in there. Okay, if they're not like that, what you need to do is, if you want to sort of just get it done, get a screwdriver, okay, and then you need to release the pressure in the hydraulic system. So to do that, you need to come up here, and there are two screws. They use the star, the hex star thing, so it's called a T15. You know, your T15 to undo that. So it's opposite way round, so there's one this side and there's also one this side, okay? And basically the right hand brake here uses sort of the opposite side screw. So for the right hand brake, so for the front brake, you'll need to undo this screw on the left if you're sitting from the saddle, and then if you're bleeding the rear brake, so the left, this is obviously UK, in America it's switched around again, so yeah, so if you're doing the left, so the rear brake, then you'll want to be on the right, okay? So let's say we're doing the rear brake, okay, which is the left one in my case. If you're in America, it'll be the other way around. You'll want to undo this one here because it's on the opposite side to the left, and basically what that'll do is relieve the hydraulic pressure, because the master cylinder is in here, and that is where the fluid can go in and out of. Okay, so release that. You probably want to tilt the bike onto its side, so that when you release it, this is the highest point of the whole system, because if your hydraulics aren't bled too badly, there'll still be fluid in here and it will leak out. This one was absolute garbage and there was no fluid in there, so I could just undo it like this in the stand, and no fluid came out, which was quite amusing, to be honest, because it's straight from the factory. The guy hasn't done anything to it and it's literally got no fluid in it, which is rubbish. Okay, so once you've done that, what you can now do is, remember, this is just for if your pistons have popped out. So if your pistons aren't flush anymore and they've come out too far, the only way to get them back is by doing this. So release the pressure at the top, get your screwdriver, or you can get fancy tools for it, but it's the same difference, and basically get in there, use it as a lever and push the pistons back. If the pistons, there should be some resistance, But if there's loads of resistance and you're having to whack it, you're not doing something right, crack that screw off a bit more. So I forgot to mention, you only need to loosen it just about halfway out, and that will allow some air or fluid to come out. You don't actually need to completely undo it at this stage to do the pistons. And then once you've put them back and you're happy where they are, if you're pushing them back and they're coming back out, if you hold them there and then do the nut up whilst holding them, they should stay there. Okay, so that's your first step. Okay, so now the bit you've actually been waiting for, how to bleed your giant conduct disc brakes. First of all, before you bleed them, you need to consider your life choices, why you bought this system in the first place. No, I'm only joking. It's not too bad, but it does make me question my life sometimes. So, first things first, you will need the right kit for the job. So I've got 2 syringes here. I've got this big boy here that can hold 35ml of liquid of mineral oil for your Tektro giant hybrid brakes. And then I've got a smaller one. It doesn't have to be big and small, it can be big, but you need at least one big one. But this one's plenty big enough to be the small one, 10ml there. And then I've got this tubing here. Make sure it obviously fits your both your syringes snugly. And then here's the magic. We made up this, so it's a bit of pipe with so this is actually a screw. So we took the screw and we bored it out on the lathe, and then took this down to the same size as the bolt that comes out, and then so we could screw this in, and then we soldered that onto there. You can buy a giant conduct bleeding kit. I think it's about £13 on Amazon. Just type in giant conduct bleeding kit on whatever Chrome or Safari, whatever you use, Amazon, then something should come up. If you don't have the facilities to make this, I doubt many people will, to be honest. £13, personally I would do it if you have a bike that is going to need maintenance. So next up, what you need to be doing is connecting up your syringes to your bleeding points. So obviously you can only do one at a time if there's only 1 or 2 of you available. I do suggest having a helper for this. It's going to help you out a lot. If you don't have a helper, good luck. So the sort of nipples, so to say, on this are here. So again, that is the T15 heads there that you need to undo. Oh, I forgot to mention that it is a M6 by 1mm thread, if anyone is interested. So you need an M6 by 1mm thread. That is the thread they use, and it needs to be about this long. It's literally like 5mm long, sort of 5mm, 6mm long. Not very long at all. That one's a bit longer. Got an O-ring on there for extra sealing. That one's a bit long. That's about like 7 or 8mm. So after done that, what you need to do is locate your bleeding points. Ideally this is a 2-man job or 2-woman or 2-person job. So you've got your bleeding points here on the rear brake. So it's just here, it's that T15 star thingy. So that's how to loosen that one. On the front here, it is in a different location, which is at the back here. So if you look at the back on the outside side, it's just there, located there. Very nice. And then obviously I've already showed you the ones at the front. So for the again, switch this around if you're in a different country. For the rear brake, so the left hand brake, or yeah, we'll just do that. For the left hand brake, it is the one on the right, and for the right hand brake, it is the one on the left there. Okay, again T15. It's got it quite nicely done that actually. Same thread for that M6 by 1mm thread. So now we've established that, what you need to do, attaching the hose, what I would suggest is you start at the handlebars. So you need to get your smaller reservoir or your small syringe and take it up here. Obviously I've still got some excess fluid in there. Ideally you want that to be dry. It doesn't matter if there's a bit in the tube, because that's a small amount of the reservoir total volume. However, ideally dry. So what you would do, let's say we're doing the left hand brake, so in my case the rear brake first. So what I would do is I would unscrew. Again, I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to film this when I did it, because it was quite a tense operation, so I'm just gonna have to talk you through it. So I'd unscrew that T15 bolt just there, and then I would screw this one in quickly. Obviously be prepared, hydraulic fluid is going to drip onto your floor, so you might want to have something there ready to catch it, because it's not the nicest stuff, but it is just mineral oil at the end of the day. And then screw that in. You can just leave that there. The advantage of using a syringe for the top one is you now have a vacuum, which means when you undo that lower one, liquid isn't just going to pour out. If you just had a reservoir here without anything to like a Shimano one that goes in the middle to create a vacuum, then you're not going to have the vacuum, and once you undo that one there, fluid's just going to pour out, which will be a bit unfortunate for your floor. So after you have attached the top one, you need to come to the back and pick up, pretend that one's attached. You need to get your big reservoir. Right, now first things first, what you need to do, put your syringe into your hydraulic fluid. I've just got this bulk Shimano hydraulic mineral oil, 1 litre, and it has done the trick for a long time, so I suggest if you're doing lots of maintenance to get a big tub like that, because you don't use that much each time, and it will last a long time. Go ahead and undo that T15 screw just there. Okay, don't be alarmed if a little bit of hydraulic fluid comes out, probably will. If you've got a mate or family, whoever, who can create a vacuum up here, so that syringe that would be attached there, if they pull back on it, then obviously that will create a vacuum and hopefully stop fluid from just gushing out here. So again, that's a benefit of using a syringe. And then you can unscrew that bolt without many problems. Make sure your brake pads aren't in here, because if you get any hydraulic fluid on them, they will not work anymore and they will be deceased. Put in your end bolt that you've made or bought, so you screw it in there, screw it in nice. Try and make sure that there are no air bubbles, especially located anywhere in your tube or your syringe. So to do that, what you can do is, if there's an air bubble like here, before you attach it, if you draw up, the air will go into here. Once it's in here, it will be able to move freely. In here, it doesn't like moving, so you see there's an air bubble here. So what you need to do is draw the syringe up. I mean, you can squirt it out, but I would suggest drawing it up, okay? And then holding the syringe like this, so that all the air collects at the top. Okay, because it doesn't matter if there's air at the top, it only matters if there's air between the fluid and your system, okay? So make sure the air's at the top and that you've got clean fluid from the end of the air here all the way down to here, or ideally as clean as you can get it. When I say clean without, I mean fluid without air. Okay, and then the important thing is, when you are screwing it on, make sure your syringe stays this way around so the air stays there. If you're then tilting it around like this, obviously the air is going to mix back around. So screw that on there. This should be filled with fluid, and then what you're going to need to do is squeeze that piston down slowly, and the fluid should come out up here, okay, and start filling up your reservoir, okay, or your syringe, either way. Whilst that's happening, I strongly recommend squeezing the brake whilst doing. This is not what the manual says. It says to do this afterwards. I did it afterwards. I personally found it worked better doing it whilst this was happening. Obviously, again, if you're doing it by yourself, you're going to have to do it afterwards. But if you can get someone to help you, then that's more ideal. So squeeze that just like this, like so. Just pump it, okay, and that should help get any air not out of there, sorry, because there's no air in there because it's a cable. It should help get the air out of the master cylinder there if there's anything stuck in there. It did for me. There was so basically I bled it all once, okay, then it was still rubbish. This was coming to here. I almost cried because I was like, what am I going to do now? This bike is not working. So we do not give up though on this channel. I used my cheap stand and I tilted the bike up to make sure that there wasn't a dip here. It says a dip, so the cable goes up, down, up, which isn't good for releasing air. Self-explanatory. So you want to get that point as low as possible and this point as high as possible. So I tilted, it's aluminium, so you can clamp the top tube, it's not carbon, yay. So I tilted the bike up about 45 degrees, which meant that air could more easily come up. Also, what I did was not only push the fluid down, but draw it back up, because some air was stuck in there and around here that just wouldn't go up. So by drawing it back that way and getting it into that cylinder instead, that syringe instead, was much better. Okay, so push and pull and pump. Okay, like I say, if it doesn't work the first time, try it a second time. Make sure your angles are right, make sure you're pumping, make sure you're pushing and pulling. Like I say, we had to do it twice. I'm pretty sure there was almost no fluid in this whole system. It was garbage. What was American phrase there? So after you have done that, and you are now happy with the braking performance and it's no longer squishy and absolutely not working at all, what you need to do is take your stuff off. So the order in which I suggest you do this is you first do the rear one. So again, leave your syringe on here to create a vacuum, so pull it back, or just don't touch it. Just make sure you're not pushing on it, or if you've got a reservoir, make sure it's blocked to create a vacuum. And then essentially when you undo your bolt here, get your other bolt ready on the 215 so you can unscrew that quickly and then screw that back on. Okay, you might get a tiny bit of leakage, but that'll only be leakage from the thread bit, which you don't need liquid air anyway, because obviously your thread goes there. Okay, so that should be relatively easy. If you mess it up, it doesn't actually matter, because what you can do is, so if, when I say mess it up, if fluid starts like spurting out, put your finger there, okay, and then what you can do is it shouldn't start spurting out. If it's spurting out, you haven't got a vacuum, but if you knock it or something happens, what you can do, your reservoir here will have some liquid in, so if you let some liquid out, it will naturally drain down to here to replenish that. So don't stress this one, and you can fix it. Okay, then on this one here, what you want to do is tilt your bike whichever way your screw is. So bolt is, if it is on this side, obviously you want to tilt your bike this way, so that's on top, and if it's on this side, then obviously tilt it this way, so this one's on top, to make it the highest point so fluid can't spurt out, because the piston is like this in there. So if it's like this, obviously if that's filled with fluid, it will just leak out if it's on its side. But if it's like this, obviously it can't leak out because the top of it's there, like a water bottle. Okay, so tilt it on its side. Again, don't stress it, just unscrew the thread. No fluid should come out because it's on its side. And then screw this bad boy back in. Okay, exactly the same for the other side. So in my case, this is the front brake here, but it's just a right hand one. So same thing again, you've got your T15 down there, just there. Okay, so exactly the same procedure. Attach both ends, give it a pump whilst you're pushing with your big reservoir down here. So not big reservoir, your big syringe down here, and your reservoir goes at the top, or your syringe goes at the top, your small one anyway. And then give it a push, give it a pull. Obviously this is a shorter length and it's much straighter, so it should be easier. So if you want to start with your front brake, whichever side that is for you, probably going to be an easier one to start with. It's also more accessible, I think, in there as well. And again, just give it a pump whilst doing it, give it a push, give it a pull, make sure all the air is out. If you're not satisfied with it, if it's just a minor improvement or not much of an improvement, but you have seen air bubbles coming out, then just do it again. That's what I had to do. If you're doing it and you don't see any air bubbles coming out, you're going to need to agitate it, so really pump the piston, or really give it a push and pull, or try a different orientation. Give the tube a tap, something, because it means you've got a big air bubble in there, because it should. This system is rubbish. It's designed to save money for Giant, nothing to do with the consumer. Doesn't matter what their marketing says. Although I don't approve of it, it should work. You should get reasonable braking. Like that's nothing, and then that's full within a couple of mil, and you've got loads of space between that and the handlebar. So it is possible to get it good. However, it just takes a bit of time and some specialist tools. You can't use the Shimano stuff, the Shimano kit on these. It won't work. Hoping you found this video useful. If you did, then hit like, and please subscribe for more tutorials and unboxing videos similar to this one. If you have any questions, if nothing made sense, please leave a comment. I'll try and respond to it. If you have any questions or anything, I will try and respond again if I've missed anything out, and enjoy your ride.